this has been a video long in the making, but let's just get into it. It's been 100% certain that the MCU hasn't been at the peak level that they were during the Infinity Saga. Now I have reasons as to why I have my own reasons as to why I believe this, but in a video I made a couple months ago, you can go check that out. Link will be in the description. But for this video, I will be reworking Phase 4 of the MCU just to have it feel more consistent and have a better flow overall. I've been working on this series of videos for the better part of, I think, a majority of this year. So I hope you guys really enjoy it, and I think this is what I feel like could have been a very more solid lineup for the MCU. The Multiverse Saga Phase 4 at least. Just so, a few things that I just need to talk about before we get into the projects itself. In this reality of the MCU, a few major things would have never happened. The first being that the pandemic would have never happened. The second being that Disney, or more specifically Bob Chapek, wouldn't rush Marvel into focusing on quantity over quality. This would give them more time to work on all these projects when it came to writing, when it came to CGI, when it came to everything as a whole that people found major issues with when it came to the original Multiverse Saga. And also, the third thing is that Doom would have been the plan from the get-go. The Kang storyline would not really be that much of a thing, because I feel like Kang is not... The way that Kang is, he is better as a recurring villain than he is a big bad for an entire saga. So Doom would be our big bad from the get-go. And speaking of Disney giving Marvel time to do their phases, each phase would be 10 projects, so we would have a total of 30 projects in the entire Multiverse Saga. And I would not be talking about any of the animation projects, including What If. Just imagine a better version of What If. So without further ado, let's get into it with the first project being Captain America: Passing of the Shield. Shout out to my friend JT Videos and his Rebooted MCU for allowing me to use the title of one of his projects. Now, this film would basically be the film version of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The main thing I would have changed would be just to have the Sharon Carter / Power Broker storyline. Really, that doesn't exist. That really didn't do anything for the show, and I very much doubt that it will be a continuing storyline in the real MCU. I would have Sharon still kind of have the thoughts that she had in the show, where it's like the government betrayed her, so why should she really care about going back to America? But Sam would re-inspire that hope in her in the end, and she would go back to the good side. But aside from that, everything else would be the same, from the Isaiah Bradley storyline to the Flag Smasher storyline, and of course the John Walker storyline. His mini redemption arc would be built up a little bit more, but aside from that, everything else from the story, from Sam's arc to Bucky's arc, would remain exactly the same. And Sam's cap suit would not have him have the cowl on, because I know that Anthony Mackie really hated having that cowl, and that's why they took it off in Captain America: Brave New World. So then we move on to the second project, which is... Oh, no, sorry. You saw that a little too early, which is Black Widow. Now, this would basically be the same film. The only difference I would make is that the film would jump from past and future events that would cover Natasha's time in the Red Room, and how she had the opportunity to bring Elena with her when she was escaping that world, but she was only thinking of herself, and that would make more of an impact when she reunites with Elena in the film. Hawkeye and Nick Fury would make a cameo. Everything else would be the same, because overall I think Black Widow is a good film. Dreykov would still be the main villain, and the Taskmaster twist would still happen, but Antonia would obviously have some speaking lines throughout the film, and we would see a bit of her personality when she's under Dreykov's control, and a little bit when she's out of his control. When Natasha sets her free, right before the Red Room is fully destroyed. And Natasha and Elena, would blow up Dreykov's helicopter, killing him. And this film would basically have the same post-credit scene, as it would bring back Val and also lead into the next project of the phase, which obviously you saw before, being Hawkeye. This will be the third project of the phase, and this, again, it's kind of the same thing as the Captain America: Passing of the Shield. This would be a film version of the actual show. The only difference is that, purely because it never seemed fair to me that of all the OG Avengers, Hawkeye was the only one to never receive a film. So I'm rectifying that with him getting the film now. And this film would basically be the same as the show. The only main difference was that we would learn more about Clint's past when he was a kid, as in that scene where Clint talks about Natasha, he would talk more about himself, and along with how being a hero has its issues, and it's something that we see throughout throughout the film as he's being dragged away from his family on Christmas. Plus, in the flashback where we see Yelena go to free another widow, Antonia would be involved in that, as we would see her and Yelena kind of be like distant friends, but they wouldn't. But it would just show more of Antonia's personality, because I really feel like Taskmaster got dealt dirty in the MCU. She really got dealt dirty. But everything else aside from that would be the same when it comes to Maya and Fisk's dynamic. That would remain the same. I know that Vincent D'Onofrio said that there's like some legal issues that stop Kingpin from being in the films, but in his version, that's not a thing. So yeah, so Kingpin would be the main villain of this film. Then moving on to the fourth project of Phase 4, we have Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which this film would exactly be the same thing. Yep, nothing from the film would change. The only minor thing that would happen is that in the post-credit scene where Shang-Chi and Katie are speaking to Wong, Bruce, and Carol, Sam would also be involved in this conversation, as now he's Captain America, and he wants to be in the know of what's going on in this world. Kind of serving as like a callback to the famous Big Three scene that he had with Bucky in The Falcon and Winter Soldier, or in this case, Passing of the Shield. The second post-credit scene with Jai Ling and the Ten Rings would be the same. However, this film would end saying Shang-Chi will return instead of the Ten Rings will return, because I don't even know if we'll see the Ten Rings organization come back in Doomsday, which I wouldn't be surprised if we do see them come back, but I won't be shocked if we don't. After that, we have Thor, Love, and Thunder. Now, this film would have some real changes, mainly two big changes, but to kind of breeze through everything, the main plot would be the same, with Jane's storyline, Gore's mission, and the whole trip to Zeus being the same. The two main things that I would change is Thor himself and the tone of this film. There would have been a line saying that Thor left the Guardians sometime after Endgame, and his arc would be to let others back into his life. Thor would feel so guilty about what happened to the kids who Gore took, and would want to get them back, however, by himself, because he feels like he is the bringer of death. Everyone he knows and loves around him will die while he is still alive. Jane, Valkyrie, Korg, and Lady Sif, who would be very involved in this film, and who would also have a metal arm now, would convince Thor to let them go with him, so we would see Thor go from being a closed-off person to be a more open person that we saw in Ragnarok. Now, with the tone, this would be on the levels of, I want to say, maybe The Dark World, where Gore is very creepy and he is very maniacal, as we would see him kill gods in front of the Asgardian children. And then another thing I would have is Korg would die when the group goes to face Gore in the Shadow Realm, just to show the danger Gore is by killing a character that I guess most people at least tolerate. Me personally, I like Korg as a character. I think he's a kind of cool character, but I know that a lot of people are kind of iffy on him purely because he was voiced and played by Taika Waititi, who directed this film. So by killing him off, it kind of shows there's danger to his world, there's danger to Gore. But aside from that, the rest of the film would be the same, with Thor becoming a father to Gore's daughter, Love, who I don't even know if we're going to see in Doomsday, but I would not be shocked if we do. Then after that, we'll finally have our first Disney Plus Marvel show, that being She-Hulk Attorney at Law. Now, this show would be 9 episodes long, and a few differences would be made, obviously. The first being that the intelligentsia would be actual threats. They're not just male haters. They're not woman haters. They would actually be an organization who fear Hulk-related beings, and that will be explained a little bit later. Now, episode 1 of the show would basically be the same, as it shows Jen's origin. Bruce would not leave Earth because it would never made sense story-wise for Bruce to just suddenly come back with Earth with Scar. That feels like its own solo Hulk film storyline that would go on. And because I don't think we'll see Scar in Doomsday, maybe Secret Wars, if that concept art that came out a couple months ago is true, but I don't know. Scar is not in this show. So instead of a Sakaran ship causing their car accident, it would just be a normal car crash. And so Jen would be... then at the end of episode 1, Jen would be attacked by Titania, and episode 2 would deal with Jen trying to learn why Titania attacked her through a trial. And Titania would tease that she was hired by the intelligentsia. Now, episodes 3, 4, and 5 would be the Wong and Abomination episodes. That's staying relatively the same. I really like that little 3-episode arc. I really like it. Episode 6 would be where Jen gets attacked by the Wrecking Crew, who are actual threats. Let me know in the comments who you would have cast as the Wrecking Crew, because I don't really know who I would have cast as them. And Jen would handle them with simple ease, but Daredevil would come in and help her take down the final, just deliver the final blows to fully knock them out. During the episode, Jen would get her superhero suit and would wear it under her clothes at all times. Episode 7 would cover Jen learning about who the intelligentsia are and that they were first formed when Todd, yes, he's in this version as well, lost his brother during the Hulk versus Abomination fight in Harlem. Episode 8 would have the intelligentsia and Wrecking Crew try to kill Emil, but they wouldn't be able to as Wong would assist Jen in getting Emil out of prison. Episode 9 would be a final battle episode in a sense that Jen is able to take down the intelligentsia through her lawyer skills and through the help of Nikki, Pug, and Mallory, with also the help of Wong, Bruce, Emil, and Matt being kind of like witnesses for her case. Along with that, the show wouldn't be that meta. I know that was like my main issue with the show, especially with how the finale went, where basically Jen rewrote the finale with Kevin. I would not have that. I really did not. At the time, I liked it, but then after like thinking about it, I was like, nah, it really doesn't make sense for me. So Jen wouldn't break the fourth wall as much as she did originally in the show, but this still would have comedic moments, and I would just have the show be written by people who actually understand She-Hulk's character. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the build-up for the end of the phase, starting with Loki Season 1, which would be the same as it was originally. This show, Loki, the series as a whole, was just beautiful. It's perfect. The only changes I would make is He Who Remains and his main reasoning for making the TVA. He would be vague about it, saying that after his variants started the multiversal war, something worse came out of it, and it'll be their doom. Now, after that, Sylvie would still kill He Who Remains, and the multiverse would officially be opened up, and we would start getting into the nitty-gritty of it, with the next project being Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, again, it's kind of the same thing. This film would be the exact same. Nothing would really be different. The only thing would be an additional piece of dialogue where, in the final battle, when Sandman grabs Peter 1, and he says, and Peter tells him that we can help everyone, Flint would continue from his I don't care line and would say, I don't care, I'm going home. For some reason, people were just really confused as to why Flint was siding with the other villains, when in reality, he really did not care about what happened to the other villains, whether they lived or died. All he cared about was getting home to his daughter, and that would be a line that would be said just to show that, okay, even though he's trying to get the box, he's not trying to get it for the reasons the villains want it, the others want it. He just wants to get home to his family, to his daughter. He doesn't care if the villains die. But yeah, aside from that, everything else would be the same. So then we move on to our second to last project, that being WandaVision. Yes, this would come out a little bit later than it originally did. WandaVision would be the exact same show, 9 episodes long. It would be explained by Agatha that if there was a prophecy with the Scarlet Witch, saying that if the time of the Scarlet Witch ever came, it would mean the multiverse is opened, or it would be the end of the multiverse, whichever one you want to kind of go with it, and however the Scarlet Witch wanted to use her power. This project would also reveal that witches know about the multiverse as much as sorcerers do, because that was just something that I kind of felt like with the actual show. It just kind of felt like not dumb, but just kind of like unnecessary that Agatha's motivation was just to take Wanda's power. I felt like there could have been a lot more to it. I know in the Agatha show it's explored a lot more, which we will get to in Phase 5. But I just felt like it would have been a nice line if saying that the witch world knew about the multiverse as well, and they know as much about it as the sorcerers do. So now we move on to our final project, that being Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, this film would be a similar sense project, and this would dive deeper into the horror aspect with Sam Raimi directing it. Now, a few changes would be made, primarily that Wanda would still be the main villain, but her transition to a villain would be gradual. For the first, I want to say 30 minutes of the film, we would see Strange, Wong, and America try to evade the tentacle monster who we saw in the original film, but that villain would be named Gargantos, and he would have lines in the movie. I don't know who he'd be voiced by. Let me know in the comments who you would want to voice Gargantos. But he would try to get into Strange's head and saying that America has the power to travel the multiverse, but Strange would not give America up. So during the first 30 minutes, Strange would go to Wanda to ask for her help. She would be very hesitant at first, but she would agree to help. They would also acquire the assistance of Mordo, who would be in a prison in Carmitage. It would basically be explained that Strange and Mordo have fought a few times in the past, so once the Battle of Carmitage commences, Wanda would be able to help against Gargantos. However, he would get into Wanda's head, and after some mind-bending manipulation stuff, Wanda would kill Gargantos and Mordo, and use the Darkhold to try to get to America and use her powers to go to a universe where she can be with her children. This would lead to Strange and America arriving on Earth 838, where we would see America's origin and where they would interact with the Illuminati, who are 1,000% smarter than what they were in the original film. The Illuminati would consist of Captain Carter, Black Bolt, Queen Lady Sif, who wields Mjolnir, Dr. Voodoo, John Krasinski's Mr. Fantastic, and Professor X, played by James McAvoy. Yes, I would have James McAvoy be in this film instead of Sir Patrick Stewart, because I kind of want all of the original X-Men characters, like from the OG trilogy, to make their big MCU debut in Avengers Doomsday. So just have it be more emotional and impactful. And we can see James McAvoy play Professor X one last time, because I really liked him as Professor X, so that's why. Now, the dreamwalking concept would still be a thing, but it would not be the cause of incursions. But it's an illegal thing that both sorcerers and witches agree on. That's something that dreamwalking is something that both sorcerers and witches don't really want to use. It's a rule that's not supposed to be broken. Reed would explain that incursions are caused when someone from another universe stays in an alternate universe for too long, and the reason why the Illuminati know this is because of an old enemy of Reed's causing one, alluding to Doom. Now, when Wanda dreamwalks into her 828 self, the Illuminati would put more of a fight between them and Wanda. Black Bolt and Mr. Fantastic would be able to fight, but they would all get killed by Wanda very easily. Strange would interact. Wanda would capture both America and Christine. Would capture America and send Strange and Christine to a dying Earth. Which would be where they interact, where Strange would interact with his alternate self, that he would say that he lost his world to a great doom, once again alluding to Doom himself. Now, this is where the final battle basically goes the same way with Wanda, where Wanda would kill herself and end up destroying every version of the Darkhold. The film would end with America staying at Carmitage and Strange finally letting go of Christine and moving on. The film would end with Clea arriving on Earth 1999. Yes, this would be this Earth's designation. It has not gone Earth 616 yet. We don't have it yet. Saying that an incursion was caused and they need to deal with it. There would be a post-credit scene of America sleeping, where she would feel a disturbance within the multiverse, ending Phase 4, saying that, all right, the multiverse is opened, and now there's going to be a lot more dangers coming their way. Now, the whole theme of this phase would be more so about growing and self-growth. Our legacy characters like Sam, Bucky, Thor, Clint, Wanda, Peter, Strange, they all experience a form of change that will move them forward in their lives. Sam obviously accepting his mantle of being Captain America. Bucky accepting the terms of he is officially done with the Winter Soldier persona and he is trying to make a new life for himself. Thor growing, opening himself up again and taking on the responsibilities of a father. Clint, in a way, passing on the mantle of Hawkeye to Kate. Wanda, in a way, going down a dark path and becoming the Scarlet Witch. Peter having to give up everything he knows and loves to save the world. Strange going through his arc of letting go of the past with Christine and starting to become something more, because it was his love for Christine that kind of held him back when it came to saving the world. And that's all something that each of these characters would have experienced in their own different ways throughout the projects. The new characters that we meet, like Yelena, Shang-Chi, She-Hulk, Mobius, and America, all grow from who they were to someone better. So each of these characters went from being someone who was like very scared or very manipulated, they grow into being their own person. And that's something I really kind of wanted to encapsulate with this phase. And obviously the big one, the multiverse is now open with the tease of a great Doom being on its way. Now, obviously we would not see Doom until Doomsday or the post-credit scene for Fantastic Four, but I would make sure that Doom is being teased throughout this entire saga. He is something he's a big threat that is coming, and all the characters are awaiting for his arrival. But that was that was part 1. That was phase 4 of my Multiverse Saga. Part 2 and part 3, phase 5 and 6 will be coming soon. They'll be here before the month is over. I just want to let that be known now. And also, I know people are kind of going to ask why projects like Moon Knight, Eternals, Werewolf by Night, Miss Marvel, and the Guardians Holiday Special weren't included. And that's simply because they either have characters that we don't know if we'll ever see again, or they aren't introduced yet. So I hope you guys are excited for what is going to come in the future, but Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Josh from Raiders Reviews, and I'll see you all next time for Reworking the Multiverse Saga Phase 5. Bye-bye.